Hi guys, Pax Europiana is here. Spring is here and it's the end of March now, 2021. And I would like to do some kind of small balance sheet for Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen. Maybe you saw my video about the State of the Union in September. It's now half a year since the State of the Union 2020 address, and it's also the end of this first quarter. And it was possible the most difficult quarter for the European Union since the second quarter 2016, when we had the Brexit disaster. And this half a year, these 3 months were really quite a disaster. When you look back, there was the situation with Brexit resolved in December, the last day. Mrs. von der Leyen, our president, really did a tremendous job, and Mr. Barnier and everybody, there was a strong dynamic. And at the end of the last year was also announced this Europe's finest hour. This is the moment, the start of the vaccination campaign. So what happened then? Since this really quite dynamic end of the year with these 2 major pillars, and also, let's not forget, 2020, despite the corona crisis, the EU has achieved significant progress. The membership of the Eurozone for Croatia and for Bulgaria, and the free trade agreement with Vietnam. These were major building blocks for a better Europe, and this was really a huge achievement. But look back now at the last 3 months. Europe's finest moment, or finest hour. And now we are like the joke of the world. We have the most terrible winter with corona deaths I think of all continents of the world. We are like outperformed by small Israel and big United States and United Kingdom. We are at the same time we had a lot of deaths in Europe, and it is also that we are somehow not perceived as a meaningful actor anymore. Then we of course have this toxic debate about protectionism. Because when you're incompetent, you always then blame the others, and then it was exactly this kind of toxic protectionist debate which has destroyed a lot of goodwill, if there was one left, in the United Kingdom. And we have a complete mess. The European Union institutions, especially EMA, but also with it the whole idea of European Union, has had a significant damage in the population. Compared to what was the idea, because Mrs. von der Leyen and Mrs. Merkel, they wanted to do that on the European level to give Europe more credibility and visibility in the eyes of the Europeans. But by bungling that up, they have the reverse effect, and everybody blames now the EU for the incompetence. While in reality, it's very incompetent member states and this overpowerful Coreper, the Council, which has given too less money, which has not given full authority to the European Union to really act, has done a crisis management by committee and by scarce committee. That means scarcity. They have not given full funding like in the US. They have not appointed a crisis manager. There was never any kind of serious crisis manager appointed. And it's all the personality of Mrs. von der Leyen, because she is attracted by everything golden, like Kibitz. She sees something golden, like golden opportunity, she wants to have it all. But she doesn't really then fight to have the resources or the competences to really manage it. So you have the crisis, but you don't, she knew what to do, she's a competent person, but she didn't get the competences nor the funding, so she had to then do it by committee. And then everybody in a competitive world, the Americans, the Israelis, the British, have outperformed them directly with the Western producers, and also the Chinese have outperformed everybody in the world. We have seen also these graphs who has really the most vaccines produced of the 4 big building blocks of the world, or 6 when you include the United Kingdom and Russia. But the 4 big production manufacturing centers of high technology is obviously the US, the EU, India and China, and we are just the 4th. And that's how we are now officially relegated at place number 4. And China, India and the US have out-manufactured us, have outperformed us, and have shown us the shadow. And also the United Kingdom and Russia have globally outperformed us. Russia is now doing all this vaccine diplomacy because they don't vaccinate their own people like a dictatorship. And the Chinese have simply really done very well in manufacturing these high-tech products. And we are like number 4 to 6 in the world. And if you are happy with this, I'm not happy. If Mrs. von der Leyen thinks that's Europe's finest hour, then I don't think she is, honestly. And so we are in the worst crisis since 2016. It's not the worst crisis since the World War. Let's not exaggerate, but it is for the institutional terms. Obviously Corona is a significant crisis, no doubt, but it's also not the earth-shaking event like the great financial crisis of 2008 or September 11, or we had other really dramatic points where the economy came to a complete standstill, like in 73 and the oil shock, and so on and so on. We have no lack of crises, but we have a lack of crisis management capacity at the European level, because we didn't never give this kind of unity, power, authority and budgets to the European level, which it should have. What we learn out of it, that there must be some crisis mechanism in Brussels established, there must be more budget in Brussels, there must be more competences, but also there must be some more accountability, and not everything can be transferred to the European level when it shouldn't be there. When there is no competence, no budget, why to give the vaccines to the European level? Jens Spahn, I have to defend him here, he had from the beginning the idea more or less Germany is buying all these vaccines for all of Europe. Not the EU, but Germany basically, because they have also the big manufacturing sites, also in Belgium, but they have also funded this BioNTech. They could, and they have, they have much more money. They are a state, The EU is not a state. The EU has just 1% of the budget. So Germany could have basically funded whatever it wants. It is now at 11% of GDP redistribution in crisis management, So it could have gone much higher, much further, and then basically redistributed it, presented or calculated the costs for everybody else. And then there would have been clear responsibility, clear decision making, clear lines of authority, and then the vaccine crisis would have been much faster produced. And much more money would be spent, much wiser, and we would actually, all of us, saved much more money, and we would be like America now, already in the opening process and in the end of the crisis, and not just having a really heavy third wave. So that's the situation we have. So what can I say? The situation is unfortunately not very pleasant, but we can come out of it. And I call that all this crisis management must be removed from Mrs. von der Leyen. There should be now, Breton is basically appointed, so it has to be now managed on the technical level, and Mrs. von der Leyen has to save her presidency. I called also already on and Europe in a way, that is, I think, very important. I called in December already to have a reshuffle of the Commission. Look, the Lithuanian commissioner is useless, and the Slovenian, he is for emergency, is useless. There's minimum 2 which have to go. I think it's also the Lithuanian has no political backing more, the Slovenian has no political backing, the political power in both countries has changed, and now they will want to 4 years continue incompetently. And there is this big crisis with the Hungarian commissioner and Orban, and this can be reshuffled somehow. But there needs to be some kind of liberation coup of Mrs. von der Leyen. If she wants to continue with the same team like 4 years more, on what basis? There will be very difficult to do that. And there's really the need for a reshuffle very urgently. I also think the French commissioner should go, and I was for Barnier to be appointed commissioner always from the beginning, and even now Breton should be sent home. He's incompetent and retiree, and Barnier knows really what the internal market is. I think he's the best knowledgeable expert for the internal market alive, no doubt. And he has also done, I hope he will be French president, by the way. But coming back to the point, Mrs. von der Leyen has not achieved any of her other priorities in the last 3 months. It would have been fair to say, okay, the crisis is happening, I appoint somebody, but I cannot do anyhow so much, and I focus on the real work. But what kind of real reforms, new membership, progress on the key questions has the EU achieved in the last 3 long months? I mean, it's 3 months. You have got free trade agreement. We have basically buried Mercosur. This is the most irresponsibility and most utter disaster I've ever seen in a long time. that we have a free trade agreement that is so important in the time of a crisis, and then the protectionist disaster forces of the EU, they destroy it in ratification or even before ratification. It's completely reckless irresponsibility. That's the first point. Yeah? Also, the relation with America have diplomatically started very well, but on the concrete ground, we have not really removed all these digital taxes. So we have a trade war now with America on the digitalization. On the Boeing, we have a little bit subdued, but some cosmetic talks about unity, but we have not done anything on enlargement of NATO or of EU, no free trade agreement. These are the things that matter. Where's another free trade agreement? Where with Africa? Where with the Arab states? Yeah? Where with ASEAN? You cannot, if we are so critical to Myanmar, it's fine, yeah, that should be. It's a real full disaster. But then at least let's engage the other countries of ASEAN more. Let's work with our strategic partners in ASEAN, with the Gulf Cooperation Council. Where's the free trade agreement with Australia? And so on and so on. It's not that there's nothing to do. Where's the progress on enlargement in Eastern Europe? Where's Macedonia, Albania firmly set on enlargement track? Yeah? Where's any other progress on economic reform, on integration of the internal market, and so on and so on? And all this, I have already outlisted this whole with Ukraine and Georgia. I mean, it's very confusing that in 3 long months there is not a single significant progress done, and everything is now obviously about Corona, but then the whole legislative pipeline in Brussels is completely stuck. I mean, this is really a significant problem. So it must be a reshuffle, and must be some key legislative deliveries in the second quarter, and I call for Mercosur to be that. Mrs. van der Leyen should be leading Mercosur against the protectionist member states and make that her lead topic. That's very important. Or the question about the EU-US summit, the integration of the EU into NATO. I mean, these are good topics. Yeah? She could really make a difference. While in reality she is shying away from all controversial topics, tries only the easy wins, like a Green Deal. Yeah? Yes, I saved the world in 50 years. We will be a very good world in 50 years because nobody of us will be alive to know. Yeah? Maybe it's very good. It's for sure very expensive. Yeah? And it's very popular with some of the green parties, and soon we will be only governed by green parties anymore. And by the way, in the coalition which Mrs. van der Leyen is now governing, yeah, because more or less she is elected by a coalition, there is no Green Party included. It's the Liberal, Social Democrat and the Christian Democrats, EPP. But no, she has only done Green Party stuff, like only the Green Deal, as if that would save Europe. It is not really very helpful during the Corona crisis, and it's not the fundamental task of the EU to focus only on that. Where is the trade agreements outside of Vietnam? Where is the deliverables? Where's Mercosur? Where's TTIP? Where is the African project, which he has so much talked about it from the beginning? Where is that? Where? And where are other reform projects, from energy to railways to, there's so much to do. I could make endless videos. I've made now already 209 podcasts about all the things which are to do. Some conflicts to solve in Macedonia, Georgia. In Georgia, for example, a retired guy from Denmark, he's very good, Mr. Danielsen, was then sent forward to go to Georgia. Why not the commissioner? In Macedonia, it was Mr. Hahn himself who made the Brezhino agreement. For Georgia, it's only the head of delegation of Sweden, the Mr. Danielsen. He's very good, but it makes a difference if it's a commissioner or not. Is Mr. Farhali too busy? What is he doing actually? Yeah. That's really a bit confusing. So a reshuffle is absolutely necessary, and there must be a serious Easter break for Mrs. van der Leyen. I hope she watches this video, and then to really relaunch the Commission after this. Yeah? Because if the second quarter of 2021 is of similar misery and lack of progress, I don't know how this Commission can be still saved, and then I will have to start to call for her resignation. I mean, if there is no progress, why not then to make a kind of 2-2 and shifting it half and have the second part of the Commission term done by Mr. Weber? You remember the guy who really should be Commission President, and not that I say he would be much better, but at least he was prepared. Yeah? At least he knew what he talked about. Yeah? At least he knew what is the EU Commission about fundamentally, because he's really experienced EU politician, and he is not trying to be the Prime Minister of Europe without the budget or competences of it. Yeah? So, Mrs. von der Leyen, time for a reshuffle, time to rethink, time to focus on what the EU Commission President can do and what he cannot do, she cannot do, and to really get going and to do that better in the second term. That's really absolutely important. Good. Thanks for listening, and all the best for Europe in the second quarter 2021. Stay healthy.